Dr. Stedman, I don't mean to interrupt,
Okay.
but I'm on the screen twice. I don't know why, but one screen says my video is not there, like my camera's not on, and the other one says it is on. So,
Well, just leave it alone, Paulette.
okay.
It might take you out, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know I am present with my camera on.
Okay, thank you. It all does crazy stuff sometimes. I'm going to share the screen and then we'll get started. I want to put the agenda up there. And while I'm pulling this up, just remember that this same agenda you can find always under that particular week in Blackboard. You get this same information. And the reason it's so important because you see what Dr. Revis and I do, we always tell you the work that should have just been finished the previous week. We talk about the current week. That's what's due this week by Sunday. Um, no, well, Sunday by 6 o'clock, Thursday by 6 o'clock with your rewrites, your edits, and that information, and it'll remind you if we have anything else going on in the week. And then we always give you a week at the next look at the next week, which we're going to come back and we're going to look at all this. But this is some people have said, Dr. Revis, I don't know, I can't keep up with this. Makes it easier. It's in Blackboard, but we deliberately pull it out and we put it here so we can make life easier for you for that particular week. Again, it tells you what you should have already finished, what is due this week, and then a look at the next week. Because remember, we said that you should always know what's going on this week, but you should always plan a week ahead and know what's coming up as well. But anyway, I kind of jumped the gun, but Dr. Revis, let's get started.
Okay, well, welcome to week 4. Guys, it's hard to believe you're a fourth of the way through this semester. It may not say it's gone very quickly, and I'm sure you will agree with that. It's been very intense, but I promise you, if you make it through this week, you're going to be fine. This is going to be the last week we have a coaching session on Thursday evening for a while, and things will start to get into a routine. So let's be reminded of our norms. Just very quickly, I appreciate the effort that you are making and making sure that your cameras are on and we can see you, and that you're holding all of your comments out of the chat until the end of the class. We don't mean to do that, to be mean or controlling or to keep you from asking questions. We want you to ask questions, but we have found that it's best to do that at the end, and we will stay on as long as there's one question left. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about your AAPSL Task 2. That one was a little more involved than Task 1. And even though last week sitting in this class, I saw a lot of people really fretting about, am I going to be able to get all of this done, meet with my PLC, disaggregate data, come up with the most pressing need, and meet with my principal. Now, we figured you probably would not get to meet with your principal, but some of mine did, Dr. Stedman. They were able to get through that entire process.
Majority of mine did. I was amazed how they worked.
So,
the majority did.
Some of you are doing a real good job making sure that you are setting those meetings and getting your work done, and it shows a real dedication and effort on your part. Dr. Stedman, if you will, let me share my screen. Okay. I still have a few people that are a little confused about our review process.
Okay, before you do that, I'm going to stop sharing in a minute. I just want to this is not, and I have to say it because we're in week 4. Dr. Revis, at this point, there's some things that we honestly should not have to do anymore at this point. Now, the first couple of weeks we said, you're learning the process, but after 4 weeks, you should know by now if we've asked you to be, this does not apply to the majority of you, but I'm still dealing with, Dr. Revis, I'm still dealing with two, not with most, but with a few, the errors of APA still. That, and I'm just being honest with you. I am not going to spend the time this week on those kinds of things like I have in the past. Now, I've told you. Now, when it comes to me, I'm going to look through it. And if I begin to see that I'm not even going to go any further. I'm going to send it back with a 0 on it and tell you, don't waste my time. When you get it done right, send it back for my review. I am not going. I spent probably 12 to 15 hours grading assignment 2, giving all the feedback that I needed, where I needed it. And I'm going to give feedback, but I'm not going to go into that detail anymore. So you need to know that we said we would cut the apron string gradually. Well, we're starting to cut the apron string a little bit in some areas. Again, Dr. Revis, this does not apply to most of you, and I apologize, but I feel like we need to say it up front. You're grown. All of you have a master's degree, and some of you have a doctorate degree in some areas. So there's some things that we should not have to say. I'm going to remind you if your assignments aren't there, but Dr. Revis, I'm not going to beg people to do work and submit it. I'm just going to take care of it. I don't have time to play those kinds of games with people. You're paying hard-earned money to be in this program, and you should get your money's worth out of it by doing your part. For a few, I did more work than they did this past week.
And you really have, because you have gone in and pulled up their document and written margin notes and noted things in the margin. And I haven't done that.
Well,
I haven't done that. But I've still tried to be thorough on my feedback.
But they need to know. I'm not going to do that this week. I will provide feedback where it's needed, but my feedback will be differently than what it has been, because it won't be the intense looking for those kinds of things. Dr. Revis, further, I want to point out, I had some, Dr. Revis, that their work was letter perfect the first time.
Awesome.
And I just want to say thank you for applying yourself, taking this. And then I had several that it was either they had to do their presentation with administration, or it was just a 95 with some minor edits. So overall, when I say I'm fussing, I'm not fussing at the majority. And again, I won't have this conversation anymore like this either, because I'm not going to waste everybody else's time. But I felt like we needed to say it up front, what we would be expecting from this point on. I'm not being mean. We're not being mean. It's just we're being real with you and letting you know what must be done. I want to point out one more thing, Dr. Revis, and I appreciate this. Dr. Revis and I, we admitted up front that, there's some of this that we're learning with the APA, especially. New stuff comes up all the time. And I can be honest with you, I can edit your paper, and based on what I'm doing, I can miss something. I can tell you something, I'll admit to it. But I appreciate Megan so much. She was so professional and so nice in how she handled it. But I had asked her to do something, and I had asked her to do something that was not correct according to APA. I didn't know that, though. I thought I was right. But Megan nicely challenged me, but this is what Megan did. She was able to go to the exact page, the section in APA, and said, this is where, and she was 100% correct. And I appreciate that. I don't mind you, and Dr. Revis doesn't mind you, but when you do, make sure that you do what Megan did. You back it up. And, you know, I thank Megan. I was wrong. I didn't know I was wrong, but I was wrong. But Megan, I learned from that, and I appreciate that. So, but I'm going to stop.
If anybody tells you they are an expert in APA, don't believe them.
No.
Because, you know, I work in and out of it all the time, particularly with my doctoral students. And I keep my APA manual right here because I have to look up stuff all the time. So you will learn it, but you've got to learn it. I want to share my screen and share with you an example of some feedback that I gave this week. Now, this is on task 2. When you turn task 2, you're what we call a draft. Of course, that means it's complete and what you feel like is ready to go to be a good submission. We look at it and you put it in the peer and instructor review process drop box. You create a thread and do that. We look at it from there, and your peers can pull it from there. This is my feedback. By Thursday evening at 6, every bit of this needs to be taken care of. When you put it back and resubmit it in that same thread, this comes up for me. I can see this. So I go down through there and I make sure I click it off and I erase, I take it out, and I make sure you've done everything I've asked you to do. If you haven't, you will not get 100, but you got to move on. So at that point, if you haven't addressed all this stuff, that's your last chance in review. Then I will tell you these things still need to be corrected before you submit it to the AAPSL assignment Dropbox. And then I make myself a note on my grade sheet so that I know to look for these things when I pull it up again. But your grade is not going to be 100 if you didn't do all this. This is an easy 100. Just take care of what we've made sure you take care of, that we've told you to take care of. So this is a typical kind of feedback. And if you take care of all this, that grade goes to 100. If you take care of everything but 1 or 2 things, it may go to a 95, but it won't go to 100. You get one time in review before you're ready for that final grade.
Dr. Revis, I want to remind people, and I know you're working in between classes when you can find a free moment during the day, but still, when you submit work to Dr. Revis and me, please, 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 please take the time to look at whether it's the AAPSL or the APTEL. We're not in the APTEL now. And Dr. Revis, I have had to go back and correct several things. And it's not the end of the world, but it is very time consuming. Very time consuming. And then whatever work you've submitted, you have to turn around. So I have to spend that amount of time all over again looking at stuff with a resubmission. So please, please take care. That part has been a little worse than what it has been in the past as far as submitting work in the wrong place. Please pay attention to that, okay?
And one more thing, while we're just saying, this is kind of don't do list. You don't need to email me and tell me you've resubmitted. It comes up for me. And that's just extra work for you and for me, okay?
Okay. But overall, Dr. Revis, I have had several that have already submitted AAPSL Task 2 for a final grade. I probably have about 10 out of the 2 classes, and some that I've given permission to. So, I mean, the process, they're doing an excellent job overall with getting those peer reviews done in a timely manner. You're right on target with correcting your work and getting it back and submit it. So again, for the most part, the learning curve, I've seen the learning curve, and I see it all coming together. Like I said, I had several that it was excellent work, excellent the first time. So congratulations.
I had several strong submissions.
So great job on that, guys.
And again, you're seeing the routine and the pattern of how things are supposed to operate. We told you it was a fast pace, and I don't think you can really get that until you get into it, but you're handling it very well.
Like I said, I would say 99% are.
Yes.
Anything else with before we get into AAPSL Task 3, Dr. Revis? Anything else you see up there?
I don't think so. I think we're ready to hit Task 3.
Okay.
Task 3 is going to require you to do a lot of research and writing on your part before you have your next PLC meeting.
Okay, here it is right here. Okay, I've got it already pulled up. I'm going to start with the first part of it. And Dr. Revis, when you get ready for the part that we talked about, when I need to stop sharing the screen, let me know. If you're going to pull up anything extra on your end, I don't know. Okay, AAPSL Task 3. Again, you've identified, here it is. You've identified your most pressing need in task 2. So at this point, you know what you're supposed to be, you know what the goal is now. So from this point on, you're going to begin looking for resources, strategies, anything you can do to help you try to deal with that identified problem in task 2. So that's what we're talking about in task 3. So make sure you read your descriptions and your instructions carefully. Again, a reminder, if it's in yellow, remember that means you've got to write something, and then you take the yellow highlighting out after that. If it's in red, that's information that's giving you some tips that you could include in the work that you're doing, the research, the writing, or whatever. But then you take the red out after you use whatever you're going to use. And then if it's in black, remember everything in black stays. So, and you follow the template. So once you've completed task 1 and 2, and you have successfully presented to the principal leadership team, then you can move on forward with task 3. Now, there's two prompts in task 3. Your focus in prompt 1 is going to be will be the identified need in task 2. Again, the research, the annotated bibliography, everything that you're doing in prompt 1 is going to be focused on that identified need that you found in task 2. So this is what you're going to do. And I'm just going to mention this, and then Dr. Revis is going to take the lead on the annotated bibliography. In prompt 1, you're going to create an annotated bibliography, and Dr. Revis is going to lead you on that is featured in the narrative to evidence and illustrate resources for best practices in the identified need area, including a section that features online tools to support the teacher and student. And in this, and Dr. Revis will point this out, you'll include a minimum of 5 regular resources and a minimum of 3 online resources. And then she'll talk about the rest of it. And then next, you're going to complete a mini research section on the best practices for your identified problem. So whatever you identified as the problem, what does the research say? And I would say, you need to look at some of the most current research and trends out there when it comes to this. So what does the research say? And you're going to treat this like a mini research paper written in the APA style. Okay, you got to have a minimum of 3 references from this. However, most people end up with more than 3 references with this, Dr. Revis, once they get into it and they begin looking at those resources and best practices that are available out there. This is an example. You'll always begin, just like with your literature review. You will always start out by restating what your most pressing need is that you identified in task 3. So in order to best understand our most pressing need, the PLC that I am leading decided we needed to first understand what caused the pressing need in the first place. And then they went into it, but this is where they did it up here. This is where they went back and restated what their best need, what their most pressing need was. Then they led into the literature review based on that most pressing need. And then again, a mini research review APA style, and they've talked about it in this section. That's as far as I'm going to go with that, Dr. Revis, and then we'll come back with some things later on. Okay.
Okay. And if you'll stop share, I will just piggyback right on you. Okay, so first of all, let me say you've got to do 2 things. You've got to do the literature review with 3 references, minimum of 3 references. Now, this literature review is about the root causes of your problem, your most pressing need. Now, here's an example of what part of a literature review would look like. Again, the first sentence or 2, they're restating what the greatest need, most pressing need, reaching students with disabilities, and this happens to be 6th grade math. So you're going to go in to your library and do a Bulldog 1 search, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment, to find what are some root causes. Like that author said in the example Dr. Stedman just showed you. You have to know what the root causes are of the deficiency before you can start finding solutions. Now, when we gather together as educators and we identify the problem, what's the first thing we start doing? We start brainstorming solutions, don't we? That's because we're problem solvers and we're fixers and we want to make things better. But what we want to teach you to always do is go to your research. Instead of basing your solutions on what maybe another school has done or a program you've heard about, we're going to go and do some research. So we'll go in and we'll do a Bulldog 1 research on root causes. And this is part of an a literature review. It's written in narrative, just like you did your research section on PLCs. You see here we have an author. That is correct APA style. And this is only 1 paragraph. I would expect, what do you think, Dr. Stedman, at least 2 to 3 well-developed paragraphs with a minimum of 3 resources.
Yeah, again, if you just put just a paragraph in there, you haven't you that is really not doing it justice at all.
I agree. So I'm going to switch gears now before I go on, and let's go and do a Bulldog One search.
You know what, Dr. Revis, if I go to a specialist because I've got some problems going on that I don't know about and they don't know about, I don't want them to just I want them to do some research, about my symptoms and everything first. A good doctor will do that um, before they begin even coming up with what they would like to begin looking at as solutions to the problem.
Exactly. So I just clicked on the library tab, and now I'm going to go to the library homepage. And right here is your Bulldog One search. And I'm going to pretend I looked this up today. Causes of poor reading comprehension in elementary school. I just type it in and see what kind of hits that I get. There are 27 results. Now, one thing that I would recommend is over here where it says refine results. I would recommend you only look at full text online. And that's because you don't have time to do an interlibrary loan request. All right, so I'm going to do that. And it goes to 27 results. These are things, the reading comprehension and vocabulary knowledge of children. We know very quickly, and any of you who've taught reading in elementary school know that if children have poor vocabulary development, it's going to be a cause of poor reading comprehension. And I can go through here, context, causes, and consequences. I mean, it's all right here. Typically, if children have poor reading comprehension, it goes back to poor fluency. Then fluency goes back to poor word attack, and maybe all the way back to phonics, some gaps in their phonics. So anyway, here's how you get that information. And I need to select 3 resources. Now, this is the first time you've been required to go to the library to find any research. And that's just because everybody's problem can be all over the page. If you were looking at reading comprehension, some of you are doing high school and you're doing some literacy stuff in high school, then just change it to causes of poor reading comprehension in high school and see what you get. You're not going to get as much. We'll just do that and see what we get.
And Dr. Revis, that could even be more specific in high school because some of them are looking at biology or, biology.
Exactly.
So you would say, causes of poor reading comprehension in biology in high schools, that's how you would refine it.
Let's see what happens if we do that. It's going to be very narrow. Well, you got 5 results.
Right. And from those results, a lot of times once you open it up, it'll give you places where you can go to other sources if you need to go beyond what you see there. It will lead you to other places when you look at their reference section.
That's a real good close reference right there. Just scroll down through it. Sometimes it'll bring up stuff that, and if it doesn't say biology specifically, I will tell you what happens with children in high school. Children who are poor readers in high school, it becomes an issue with vocabulary.
Right.
Because the vocabulary becomes so sophisticated in the content areas, they just have a hard time handling vocabulary. So It might not be reading comprehension as much as vocabulary skills. So you can look that up. But
And
anyway,
I bet the research will actually tell that, and you can actually look at it at instructional practices as well, when it comes to that, because I guarantee you that many times the teacher may be just may not be focusing on the vocabulary as intensely as they should.
and we know with our English language learners and our students with disabilities, they require a lot of visuals and context clues and all those kinds of things to help them be able to access that specialized vocabulary. They're good for all children, but particularly those groups of learners. So your literature review, and I've said it several times now, your literature review focuses on research on the problem or identified area of need. What causes this? Okay. Hold your hands up. How many resources must you have in your lit review?
A minimum.
A minimum. All
3.
right.
Okay.
Now, your annotated bibliography is about research on solutions. Okay. And you have to have 8 annotations. Now let's talk about the format of an annotation. If you just look right here, what I've highlighted, the format of your annotation is just like you would have.
Monday through Friday work.
Well, somebody's a little off task. The format of your annotation is just like what you would see in your reference section. This is a reference. I know looking at this is a book, because my title is in italics. Book titles are always in italics. And I also look at some of my capitalizations. Only one word's capitalized in that title of that book. So an annotation, you put your reference, citation of your reference, and then you just talk about, you summarize what you learned from that resource. The main purpose of evaluating this source was to consider the author's position on how teaching devices impact instruction for students with disabilities. The teaching devices that they proposed and were proponents of, utilizing graphic organizers. I used to have a facilitator, was a strong instructional facilitator, and he said, you can never overutilize graphic organizers in your instruction. You can never overutilize graphic organizers. So anyway, so those are solutions, right? So we know that for students with disabilities, be it math, English, science, social studies, whatever, that we can enhance their learning by using graphic organizers. And you would do 8 of these annotations. 3 of the 8 must be some online tool. For example, it could be that you want to explore. Oh, give me the name of one, Dr. Stebbin. I've gone brain dead. What's the one we use a lot in elementary? iReady, is that it?
iReady.
Is that
iReady,
Delta Math? Delta Math. Yeah, that's a good one that a lot of people use now. Delta Math. That is an online resource that a lot of schools use to help students focus on their deficiencies. It's individualized, yada, yada, yada. It aligns to the state standards in North Carolina. So I see a lot of schools using Delta Math as a supplemental program, if you will, to the core instruction. So that would be something I could research. Now, am I going to find that in my Bulldog One search? I don't know if you will or not. Let's see.
Dr. Revis, while you're doing that, I'm in the APA manual. If you will look on page, and just mark this down, page 307, 9.51, and it's about annotated bibliographies. It goes into the references, and then it has examples right after that, but it begins on page 307. You'll probably need to refer to this, when you're writing this section.
Now, when I go and do a search, I'm not pulling up anything about Delta Math, and I wouldn't expect to, but I could just go to Google Scholar and let's pull it up. Here we go. Delta Math done right. And you can research. You can look at frequently asked questions, what grade levels it supports, what state standards is it aligned to, is there any number? You've got all the information you need here to probably put in your annotated bibliography. And if you're familiar with it and know someone who uses it or has access to it, you can also, just ask if you can look at Delta Math. But that's the way you get that information. There even should be.
Go back up there, Dr. Revis. Click on About, and let's see what that says.
Okay. Yeah, this gives you some historical background about what it is. Now, remember, you're going to paraphrase. You're not going to just copy and paste from these websites. But it does give you some information about it and the targeted students. All right. Sometimes it will even give you research. I was going to look down through here.
That's why I said that. I didn't know if something would have been in there, but it wasn't.
Sometimes they will even show you some research they've done as a company or a third-party company has done on the effectiveness of this program.
Go there and type up there. Just put research on Delta Math and see what it says.
If I could type, I'd be a lot better up. There we go. All right. There starts getting you some research. And even before that is Delta Math research based. Is it effective? You can find all kinds of information, but be sure you're citing your web resources correctly, and so on and so forth. Make sure you're being a good consumer of your research here when you're working just in Google Scholar. I don't think I'm in Google Scholar even, but I wanted just to share that with you so you could get a good idea of where you can go for those 3 online resources. Now, we have, Dr. Stedman and I have a tendency to say you need 8 resources, 5 regular and 3 online. So the 5 regular need to come from your Bulldog One research. And they need to be more about instructional strategies. and practices. Or it could be about a program, I guess, but it would not be a program that's online, if you will. So let's review again. In my literature review, I'm looking at research about the causes of my problem, right? How many resources minimum do I need? My annotated bibliography, I'm trying to find solutions. What does the research say works? How many online solutions do I need to find? 3 online. And how many regular do I need to find? 5. And
Good.
those are going to come out of my Gardner Webb resources from my library.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Revis. Let's continue on to okay, prompt 2. You've completed your research. You've completed your annotations. That brings us to prompt 2. Please note in the prompt directives that the candidate is responsible for detailing how the PLC created and used, notice the word, multiple graphic organizers and visuals, such as charts, graphs, tables, timelines, etc. And remember, you're going to identify all of them as figures when you put them in task 2. There will be narrative work, and there will be figures, the graphics that you will put in prompt 2. Where is this going to come from? Now, Dr. Revis has just talked to you about online resources and 5 other resources that are not online resources. You're going to pull information from that. Now, it's not going to be visual information, graphic information for every one of your 5. It's not going to be information from all of the 3 online resources that you find. But, and Dr. Revis is going to show you something in a few minutes too, how you're going to take those 3 online resources and you're going to narrow your focus with them. Now, once you narrow your focus, just like you did with your most pressing need, you're going to narrow your focus. Once you narrow your focus, probably what you want to do is to further explain that, because this is probably going to be an online resource that you're going to recommend, you're going to share with your PLC team, and you're going to recommend to administration if it's affordable, if it's something that they can do, that this is something that you may want to consider to help us solve the problem that we've identified in task 2. But Dr. Revis, are you ready to show? Well, let me do this. Let me stop this. While I'm doing this, say anything else you need to say, Dr. Revis. I'm going to pull up another document. And
yeah, I'm ready to show that whenever you're ready for me to.
Are you ready for it? You got it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop share then. Okay.
Okay, so let me show you just one slide. This is called, I like to see this at the end of prompt 2. All right, you're in prompt 2, I'm going to see some graphics about this person looked at 3 online resources. I would assume that science is their area of greatest need because they're looking at mystery science as one of their solutions. So I would expect to see throughout prompt 2 some narrative, some figures, some data about the effectiveness of each of these programs. At the end, I want some narrative about my PLC compared and contrasted the different online tools. What you're trying to do is get them to narrow down to make sure that to have one that you're going to recommend to your principal. Now, you're probably saying, wait a minute. We already have our budget for the set for this year. That's okay. It may be just something you're going to have to wait and do it another time, but you're leading them through a process. So we recommend this chart or table, and these have just been created by someone, don't know who, but it's really good because it talks about the different types of things you would look at if you were evaluating an online resource. And you can see very quickly here that all of them are interactive. All of them are standards aligned. This one's the only one that's grade specific. This one, Study Island, is the only one that assigns students to levels based on their responses, but it's not affordable. It's the only one that gives student practice, but Mystery Science also gives some hands-on. So you're going to lead your PLC through a discussion using this graphic organizer to come up with a recommendation to your principal to use for purchase of an online tool to address.
Or it may be a free online tool. You can, that may be why you make the decision you make, and because the money's not there and you have to go with the best resource based on what you can and cannot do.
And put that in the narrative. We really like Study Island, but it was out of our, we didn't have the budget for that. So we're going to go with Mystery Science.
But remember now, if you're a Title I school, and most schools are now, then, challenge in a nice way, professional way, challenge your administration would just say, would it be possible, Study Island, if that's what it would be, Study Island is good and we realize there's a cost involved. Would it be possible for us to look at money from our Title I allotment to begin working with Study Island, and again, you may have to start with a grade level and then progress yourself, with it, but go in with it doesn't hurt to ask, but make sure that it is a reasonable ask, not something that that is totally out of kilter for your school.
Now, some of you may be thinking, well, we have Study Island, but people don't use it or use it correctly. Can that be one of my recommendations? What is our answer to that, Dr. Stedman?
Absolutely, yes.
If your school has bought it, it aligns to address your most pressing need, but your teachers are not using it, or it's not being used with fidelity, that can be one that you investigate. But remember, you've got to go through the research, make sure it does address your most pressing need and is a viable solution. And then what are you going to do differently with it? You don't put that in this one, that's later on, but you just have to think, why are people not? Is it better to, resurrect that program that nobody's using or using with fidelity? Or is it better to drop it and find a new program?
And it may have been under an administration previously that just did not enforce it. You may have new administration that has a whole new set of eyes on everything, and it gives you an opportunity to help them, with something. They may have come last year and still, sometimes they inherit so much that they just haven't had time to get to that. Yeah, but you bring it to their attention.
May I take a trip to Pittsburgh and do a little APA here?
Absolutely.
Okay, I blacked this out. This person, I see this a lot, and it's in an example, it's in PowerPoint. This is not correct. When you have a figure, the note down here are notes that are only necessary for the reader to have in order to interpret the graph, the table. This should just be plain text, shouldn't be a note. This is plain text. And I saw that a lot in some of your tasks too. Only put in a note what a reader needs in order to interpret your figure. I'm sorry, I just had to.
That's all right. And Dr. Revis, I saw some of that too. I didn't camp out there, but I'm glad that you're mentioning it, because we probably need, if we had said too much during task 2, it would have been too much for some to have handled. So, but now we're moving on. Task 3. We won't go back to task 2. We're not going to ask you to go back and to change all that. But in task 3, you need to focus on what Dr. Revis just said. Okay?
Okay. I'm trying to prepare some of these students to go into the doctoral program, Dr. Stedman.
Well, I've already identified several. I just haven't.
I have too.
We haven't had that conversation yet, but I've already identified several. I hope by the end of the class that I can identify everybody. But you teaching currently in the doctoral program, I have taught in it, so we know what it's going to require, what kind of work ethic and everything that's going to be required from that.
Well, and my philosophy is you can learn it right just as well as you can learn it wrong.
Right.
Let's learn it right.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, before we move out, Dr. Revis, I want to show this. Okay. Remember in the AAPSL template and material section that you have a completed sample. You need to look at task 3, the completed sample. There's the literature review, an example of, again, this is just an example. But notice again, there's the annotated bibliography, a completed one.
And most people put their online resources at the end. It's easier for us if you'll do that. Like, and instead of mixing.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing I forgot to say, on your annotated bibliography, it needs to be in alphabetical order just like you would your reference section.
And when you go to your APA manual and read those, there's 3 pages there you need to read on annotations. I gave you the page numbers. It tells you all of that too. It explains everything in there.
Let's see how this example did the online.
There it is.
See, they split it up. That's easier for us too, because we can just say, okay, you've got 5 here and 3 here, and you just start over.
Well, it's for us, but especially when it goes for final evaluation to that third person evaluator that's anonymous, you know, that's important. Now look at prompt 2. Remember, they go back and you go back and restate your problem from task 2, and remember you're leading into talking about that resource, mainly your online resource that you're going to focus on. They can talk about other things, but this one focused on vocabulary. And notice they gave a lot of examples using and there's the comparison chart that they used. And as always, you have to go, but remember, you have to do your reference section, and at a minimum, Dr. Revis, at a minimum, how many references will they have? Do they have to reference everything that they put in their annotated bibliography in the reference section?
Yes. Yes.
And
And it's very
everything,
easy to do that.
right?
You just copy and paste it, right? Because it's already in reference format.
So
You would
there's
have, let's
8
see,
there and 3 in the research. So there's a minimum of 11. A
and when
minimum
you turn in
of 11.
task 3, yeah, when you turn in task 3, please only turn in task 3, and please only turn in the references and any appendices that you have for that task. I know you're keeping a master somewhere, but we can't scroll through all that stuff when we're grading.
And
Now,
remember,
I want you to look at the last sentence right before this figure.
go ahead.
Can everybody read it?
Yes, go ahead.
They're stating specifically, they've talked about their reasoning, but they stated specifically which tool they were going to recommend to move forward with. Okay.
Now, at this point, you do not present to administration at this point. Task 3, you're not presenting. That will come when you do task 4. Okay. So with task 3, you're only working with your PLC at this point. Okay.
And you're going to have to do some research before you present to your PLC.
Right.
It's not the responsibility of your PLC members to go dig out the root causes and possible solutions. Now, in passing, they may ask you to look at a program and you do the research and bring it back. But you come to that meeting with your research and information in hand.
And they may be able to share with you while you're there something you hadn't thought about. And that's
Exactly.
okay. But you can't come expecting to accomplish anything if you have not done work ahead of time.
And again, some of you in task 2, as soon as you identify the need, you wanted to go on and start brainstorming possible solutions. And I told you, take it out of task 2. That's not where it belongs. But if you did that, and it's just such a tendency for us to do as educators, then you can get an idea of maybe some of the online programs that they're thinking about, then research them.
Right. And remember in your appendices, at a minimum, you're going to always have that agenda where you are working with your PLC. That's at a minimum. And you include other things that you need as well. We always need proof that you're leading your PLC. Okay.
And as a rule of thumb, just another APA reminder, if a figure appears within the body of your narrative, it should not appear in your appendices and vice versa.
Right.
But there should never be an appendix entry that is not referenced in your narrative by parentheses, see Appendix D.
And that's a good reminder, Dr. Revis. Dr. Revis, I have put on our agenda, and I hadn't thought about it, to talk more about the internship. But since we're going to do that on Thursday night, I'm going to forfeit that because
I agree.
I don't think we need to. But now we're through. This is all we're going to present to you tonight. We're through. So it's question time if you have questions about what we have talked about. Okay, Jeffrey?
So when we're researching the resources for the bibliography, are we expected to present to the PLC this week if this assignment's due Sunday?
Yes. You have to work with your PLC this week as well. You're going to find you'll be able to get this done faster than you realize. Don't overthink it, Jeffrey, or any of you. Don't overthink it. You'll be able to do the research more efficiently than you realize once you get in there.
You won't have everything written up
No,
in format, but you will be able to say from this resource, every resource that I looked at when we were talking about working with students with disabilities spoke about the importance of graphic organizers, visuals, context clues, those kinds of things. And you can go online and pull up those online tools and look at them just like I did here. You don't have to have anything written.
So if I create a brochure of the different resources and stuff, and then meet with each individual and talk to them about it, is that okay?
I think you need to have a meeting.
Okay.
And Jeffrey, let me all of you. Some of this is going to be work you have to do, and that's what Jeffrey's thinking about. I would focus on my 3 online resources first, and at least take those before my PLC. Some of the other stuff you may not have fully done all of it yet, and that's okay. But I think if you can take a resource or 2 and then your online resources, you can knock that out. They need to help you make a decision about that online resource. The other, just you may not have completely done it, but take what you can to the table. Okay, Elizabeth.
Yes, sir. Dr. Stebbin and Dr. Revis, I did have 2 APA questions. The first one, in the mention that you said of the example of the annotated bibliography, on page 308, the example lists a title for the annotated bibliography. Do we need to do that, or should we stick with the template?
Stick with the template.
Okay. Okay, and then the second one is on page 198 in regards to the placements of tables and figures. I know you said don't go back and fix task 2, but I have not. I was getting ready to, I guess, to submit it. But when I look at the note sections of mine are not truly notes. Should I take the time and just move them to precede the figure and then call out the figure, or what should I do?
No, move on to task 3. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Now, I will have to say, in some of my class, I told you to do that. If I told you to do it, do it. But if it hasn't been pointed out to you, don't do it.
Okay. Will I need to do that eventually? Like when I submit it to will I need to do that eventually?
I would, well, Dr. Revis, I'm not going to say anything. I'll let you say that.
Well, I just think it's correct. Now, if you just got a sentence or 2, no problem. But when it becomes a huge paragraph, there's a problem with that.
I have paragraphs. Yeah, I have paragraphs. Mine are not legitimate notes. So
Liz,
I just need to.
You're not going to be happy, I can tell, until you do it.
Right. And I was going to say, I think
Okay.
Elizabeth, you'll have to fix it or you're not going to be satisfied.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the correct format for task 2 would simply be to move that before, call out the figure, and then list the figure.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
It's not a hard fix though. Okay. Carolina.
Hi, some of my peer review people were concerned about changing our peer review schedule around until we get to the AAPSL. My concern is if we switch around now, then when we review each other's task 3, 4, or 5, we may not have the background knowledge that we need from task 1 or 2 to give quality feedback. So do you suggest that we rotate or stay the same?
It doesn't matter to me. That's a PLC decision.
Make that decision, but what you've said is a good point.
Yeah.
Remember, but
that's why that's why we always tell you to put something at the beginning of each task so that we know what you're looking at, because we're looking at them isolated as well. That's just whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, Mandy.
Yes, sir. I met with my administrative team today, and I have my video of my presentation. Should I, in that final paragraph in task 2, before my figures, should I write a little bit more about how that presentation went and then submit the video as an appendices?
Yeah, and don't just put the video down there. You should you can put that as a link, but you should put the PowerPoint a list of the PowerPoint slides in your presentation. That should be down in the
Yes, those are already in there.
Okay, that's already in there. Well, then I think that you know, put that in your appendices, and then just a narrative down at the bottom will work. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Liz?
Yes, when we're looking at our sources for this task, would it be appropriate for us to use what our curriculum is for tier 1 or our core curriculum, and highlighting what it means to do that with fidelity versus introducing some new resources or curriculums that are not included?
I think it could be a combination of both. I think you need to have some novice to it, but then if there's things that are not being done with fidelity, it goes back to Study Island, then you know, that can be incorporated with what you're doing as well. And then when you get to task 4, when you put the plan of action there, that can really be a part of your focus in your action plan of action with some things.
So if our core program is something having to do with math, and we have a fidelity check that is from the math program, and we say this is how we're going to improve our math instruction in these grade levels using the math fidelity check with the instructional practices, that could be one suggestion or one source.
That goes, no, don't let it be a source. You do what you said. Save that for when you get to task 4. That is going to be a part. That's good. That is actually, that can be a strategy for improving.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand this. So if we have a core program or a core curriculum, exclude that from our research and our annotated bibliography for task 3.
And my response, I think, Liz, would be, if your core curriculum is meeting the needs of this targeted group or about a targeted curricular area, then there wouldn't be a gap. There wouldn't be a need. So you need to go beyond what you're using for your core.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
However, in your narrative, you can mention it in task 3, but I don't want you to camp out there, because I honestly see how you can use all of what you just said when you get to task 4. Don't you, Dr. Revis?
Yes, yes.
I'm struggling because I'm an MTSS coach. And
Right.
before I put in tier 2 and tier 3 support plans, I go back to the core.
Right.
So and my work at my PLC is true. Like, we're actually going to do the things. And so I want to make sure that we're focusing on our core. If I have specific questions,
why would that not be mentioned in your narrative work? You talk about the core curriculum, but then you can lead into, in addition to looking at the core curriculum, we're going to further research in these areas, blah, blah, blah. And that's where you would come in with the 5 additional resources and the 3 annotations.
Okay.
I think I would say that, but then lead into it.
Okay.
With other things.
Okay. I appreciate
Dr.
that.
Revis, are you okay with that, Dr. Revis?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Kizzy?
Hey, good evening. I'm just trying to make sure I heard this correctly because my computer was going in and out. So with our task 2, you don't want us to make any revisions to it when we turn it in, like for the final grade with you all? You want us to just move on?
No.
Okay.
No. Kizzy, if I noted some revisions, you need to make each and every one of those.
Okay, and then submit it.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna still submit it on the Blackboard discussion board and as well to you as like on the final submission or something?
No, no. By Thursday evening, you make your revisions to task 2. You
Okay.
submit it to the thread, Blackboard thread. I
Okay.
look at it again there, and then I tell you to go ahead and put it in the final AAPSL Dropbox. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, cool beans.
All right. Kizzy, you've been doing some good work, by the way.
Thank you. I'm tired. That's why I got my words all mixed up. Thank you.
Okay, Renee.
Good evening.
One time you're Mary,
So-
one time you're Renee. So, I guess I'll call you Mary Renee and I'll get it all right.
Actually, that's officially what it is. So
Okay.
anyways, so I'm doing my AVID group and it's my incoming 6th graders. So we haven't had them and this is their first year in AVID, which AVID has their own strategies such as their Wicker and stuff like that. Would I need to do the same thing you had recommended to Liz, just as supplemental?
I think so. Yes.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you say so, Dr. Revis, on that as well?
I think so.
It follows the same, in a different way, it follows the same concerns that Liz pointed out. Yes.
Yeah. And I will say this, remember, you all are to a point where you're very individualized and very specific to your need. But we're trying to take the specific needs and trying to package it in a way that is, I don't know what I'm trying to say, that is general enough so that your evaluators can find that stuff, okay? And that they're not having to look all over the place for all of this information.
Understood. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our goal for you is not only to learn a lot about leadership and this process that we're going through and how to do a school improvement project, but our goal is for you all to get at least a 3 on your final score. We shoot for a 4, and that's what we want. But we've got to get that state evaluator to make sure they don't miss things, and they don't look at them very carefully. They don't spend a lot of time on them. If it's not evident and where they're very accustomed to seeing things, they'll look right over it, and you're done for. So when I get specific in my feedback and say, at the end of task 2, write prompt 2, task 2, write a paragraph that describes your presentation to your admin team and reference your slides in the appendices. That's because that's where the evaluator will look for it.
Right.
I have a kind of wanted to tack on to that. So just out of curiosity, and I'm sure you guys don't have this problem, but it's been a burning question. What happens if you get up and you don't make that final cutoff score with the evaluators?
If you do what we tell you to, you're not going to have that problem.
Never had that. I've never had that. Have you, Dr. Stedman?
Not with it. No, because before it got to that point, I disinvited people from the program.
Before it gets to that point, yeah, we will work with you and have special Zooms with you. We'll do, yeah, you won't get to that.
But no. And
thank you.
And again, that goes back to when we ask you to do something, there's a reason for it, then just do it. It's just like, and not treating you like children, but I can remember my boys growing up. Sometimes it was okay to talk about it, but then sometimes I would tell them, I said, don't ask me why. I said, do it. And that's kind of where we are right now, Renee. When it gets to that point, it's like the Nike commercial, just do it and you'll be okay.
Now, again, my point in showing you that screenshot earlier in the session about my feedback, you can take what you want to take out of your peer review stuff. But when we tell you to do something, you need to address it.
Right.
So I'm just saying, And your peers are giving you really good feedback. I will tell you that though.
Unless I tell you, like I told Megan something wrong, and then you call me out, and we we're okay with that. By all means, if you think it's something that we've asked you to do, because again, it's honest, could be an oversight or whatever, but those things are okay to ask us about. Okay, guys, already I can tell, Dr. Revis, I can tell the growth. Can't you?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I'm not seeing many smiles tonight, but I think that they know what they need to do and probably are processing about when am I going to get this done? But I promise you, you can. You can do it and get it done.
All right. Jasmine?
Hi, question. I prompt the second part of task 3, the prompt part with the visuals. I'm still kind of confused. Does the PLC we have to make those together, or can I create the visuals that
Yes, you create them.
And think about this, Jasmine. Let's use it for one that's commonly known. Let's say it's Study Island.
Okay.
Okay. When you do your research on Study Island, if you go actually into the program, there's all kinds of information in there that shows you research and evidence-based, proven graphics that are already there that you can use. So don't reinvent the wheel. Look into those online programs and find what is there.
Visuals that support my online resources.
Yes. Pull it.
Okay.
And that's what you're going to use more than anything else in prompt 2. You're going to that online resource, you're going to really focus on those in your visuals in prompt 2.
But it's written still like a narrative. So like see appendix such and such and such for this visual.
No, you're going to embed those in. Those need to be shown as figures in.
Okay. Kind of like we did with the graphs.
Yes, we need to see them as figures in prompt 2.
Okay. That's what.
Now, Jasmine, let me piggyback on this. The only thing you really do together is that comparison chart.
Okay.
All right.
So we can use that as a good, like,
Oh yeah, use it. Use it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fine. Caroline, you there? Okay, we can't hear you, Caroline.
I'll jump on again real quick. Is there a certain amount of figures we have to have for the
Just
prompt?
remember, it says multiple.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I would say multiple is more than 2.
Okay.
I like to see at least one figure for each of those online programs.
Makes sense.
Okay. At least.
And then remember that chart is also going to be in that section as well. That's
Okay.
another.
That would be at least 4 right there. All right. Thank you.
Caroline, can you? Okay, Caroline's having technical difficulties.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Yes.
Okay, good. Had to play with it a little bit. For the South Carolina students who's already taken the Paraxis, do we still go through the state evaluation for North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you'll have to get a degree from Gardner-Webb, or you'll have to go through that process.
Okay.
But you're going to be fine, Caroline. Like we said with Renee, just if you do what we ask you to do, you will be good at the end of the day with that process. You won't have a problem. Okay. Okay, guys. Everybody, all hearts and minds clear, as the preacher says. Okay. Okay. I can't remember your first name.
It's Quintina.
Quintina, yes.
This is for Dr. Revis.
Okay.
It's one part that I forgot to submit. Is she still in?
Yes, she's here. Dr. Revis? Well, she's there.
I'm here. I'm here, Quintina.
Do I need to contact you about that?
If you don't understand my feedback, yes.
Okay. I guess tomorrow afternoon would be fine.
Sure. I've got some conferences. Sorry. I've got some conferences starting at 5 tomorrow. So you can try me an email or whatever you want to do, or I can stay
Okay.
after tonight.
Okay.
And we'll look at it.
Okay.
Okay. Mandy, are you still online? Mandy, just
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
just
I'm here.
Stay there until everybody's gone, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, guys, we'll see you on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. And again, did your watermark, have you started looking for your watermark? I know
It's okay.
several had said that I got a notification. Paulette told me that hers was, she got hers.
Sure.
Okay, so look for your email on watermark, okay? I'm going to do that.
See you Thursday.
Okay.
Dr. Revis, how do you want me to contact you?
You can stay on. You can stay on right here if you want to.
Okay. Mandy wanted to speak with us privately at the very end, so we'll just hang on, Mandy.
Dr. Stedman, I have a quick question. Well, a statement.
Okay.
This is Octavia.
Hey, Octavia.
My whole PLC is about to change because we lost another teacher. Our teachers aren't staying at my school, so this is making it difficult. Can I just pick new people, or what do I need to do?
You'll have no choice if they're not working, but and just go back and fix it, and you need to find you a team. And again, Octavia, find you, other than yourself, find you at least 3 more that you can truly depend on. Look for, have you got an instructional coach at your school?
Yes, and she has been willing to help me. Yes.
Okay, I would put her, and then I would look maybe at two content area people in the school, or grade level people, and then that I would leave it at that.
Okay. All right. It's been a rough year for us, and we're not even 20 days in.
Okay. That, a lot of places are like that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Octavia. Okay, Quintina.
Yes. Okay. I with the task 1, I didn't get a chance to submit it into the last component because I still had work that I needed to do on it, right? And that's because I was so